Keep that in. Dr. Flynn, welcome to week 16 of the NFA challenge.
It is fantastic to be here and another successful week.
Great success all around this week.
Successes all around. I think that's all the time we have today.
See you later. See you next week, everyone. For those tuning in, we're doing the 30K to $1 million challenge. We'll reveal if we're closer to $1 million or 30K after 16 weeks very shortly. But I do have a couple of things to talk about. I'm going to be speaking very much in the NFT realm, my own project launch, and then a couple of things that occurred. I briefly mentioned to you before, but how one tiny bit of me being not educated enough cost me about $60,000 this week. It could have actually been last week. I don't know why I didn't talk about it on last week's episode, but I'll get into that after you tell the people what you're talking about this week.
This week, I don't have too much new this week. I haven't made any investments. I'm holding a few things at the moment, and you'll see why I'm holding them as well when we jump into some of the numbers. I really wanted to liquidate one of the NFTs that I had. However, I'm not willing to make a loss on it. And I wonder if this is the endowment effect where I'm just not willing to make a loss and it's going to cost me in the long run. Yep. But I also do believe in these NFTs, and I do believe in the My Curio cards. And so I feel like by sticking it, I guarantee you, right? I sell one of these little bad boys, and the second I sell it, she goes up next week. So yeah. I would like to make a profit on these, and I think that they will make a profit in the, I guess, short to medium term, 12 to 18 months. But in order to win this challenge, I need a little bit more liquidity right now, and I am holding almost no cash. I think when I looked at it last time, it was like $300 and something cash. So there's not a whole heap of cash there to be playing with. So in order to be making moves and making trades, I do have to sell something. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that soon.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start on those curios because they are at they're not at all-time lows. They're way up from the start of the year. They're like 20, 30x up from the start of the year. But they peaked, and this is the way the NFT narratives sort of go, is they follow a storyline and a piece of news. And it's almost like ties into that social arb stuff where it's like, curios are going to be auctioned at Christie's October 1st. And this is like 2 months before. Everyone's like, oh, this is news that hasn't broken mainstream yet. Buy. And it goes up. And it goes up. We'll say a base card goes from 0.3 ETH up to 1.3 ETH, which is a $3,500 US increase on a base card. And you can buy 10 of them. So it's potentially, if you bought then, you're absolutely skyrocketing. And then what happens is it almost reaches like a mature point with that news where everyone starts to know it already who's in the NFT game, and everyone's still waiting for mainstream to join. And then they release like the news to the mainstream in like New York Times and everything. And it's like no one, I feel like, in the mainstream jumped from not owning an NFT to jumping into curio cards as their first NFT. And it's like mainstream is still a long way behind. That's why I say these things are historic, because they're the first art piece on the Ethereum blockchain. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, fast forward 18 months, that's when more and more mainstream sort of get in. And like my uncle bought NFTs this week, and the mainstream are coming slowly but surely. But it is a fascinating thing where people always sell the news. And even when Christie's auction happened, we were like, oh, the week leading up to Christie's auction, maybe they'll start skyrocketing again. People sold the news even harder, and now they're at not all-time lows, but all-time lows over the last month and a half.
If we just say all-time lows since Peter bought them.
Since Pete bought, yeah. Yeah, since Pete bought.
That's all good.
But it's okay. It's okay. So I'll start off. I don't have too long, but I'd like to tell the story of how I should have been in this six-figure range, plus $100,000 this week, probably last week. And this was I might just share screen just to get off this thing over here. Basically, if we go to OpenSea, and if you're joining and you've been watching along, I'm just deep in the NFT world now. I'm no longer a trader of any sort. I need to liquidate all other.
You buy and sell online art.
Exactly. I'm a connoisseur of really professional digital art.
Fine.
So Neo Tokyo identities, these things here, these are fascinating, and I won't go too deep into detail here, but basically they're run by a guy called Alex Becker and Ilio. His YouTube name is Ilio Trades, and essentially, in order to get these, and Pete, you were around when we were doing some of it, they had a treasure hunt to find the first 2,000 items, and the treasure hunt was all sorts of messed up because like the clues, we worked out the clues before the websites where the answers were actually up. So we worked out the clues, went to the website. There was nothing, like, oh, we must be wrong. And then just like 2 weeks later, the website was up. And it's like, oh, well, this is a little bit silly. But long story short, we got on the whitelist, which means we're able to mint when these are ready. We set our alarms at, I believe it was 2 a.m. It could have been 1 a.m. Me and my girlfriend, Jenna, and my brother, who slept through his alarm and had to call my mom to go wake my brother. It's at 2 a.m. And we basically... we're in the ether scan, and I'll show you what this is, and I'll put this in as simple terms as possible because I'm only still getting into the weeds of this. But the ether scan is basically a direct scan or reading of the transaction and the contract on the blockchain, where OpenSea is like an eBay, like the secondary sales where you actually sell the item. This is basically an app straight on the Ethereum blockchain that shows you everything that's happening. So the price that people are paying, and you can see that they didn't pay anything because these are free, but they paid a gas fee here. Now, what's fascinating is, and I'll keep it really simple and short, you can actually mint, instead of going to the website and minting things, some projects are available to mint straight through the contract. So if you think you got a website here, you got blockchain over here, there's a contract on that blockchain that shows you when you mint this, this goes to Peter Flynn's wallet. Now, you don't actually need that website. You can actually come into here on Etherscan and write straight into the contract. And you can start minting your own things straight up the blockchain. And so this is the way this was launched. There was no actual website. You had to connect to your wallet, which I'll quickly connect to mine. So I'll show you what this looks like. And basically, you came down here from the whitelist and you had to put in your proof, your spot in the whitelist, which was basically all the clues before when you solved them, you got on the whitelist. We're all on the whitelist. And then the token ID. And we were in the window of minting this for 8 minutes. We had 8 minutes to mint this thing. And for the token ID, the instruction said, put in your wallet and then put in your spot in the whitelist and put in your proof. And so we we're posting our wallet addresses in this thing. And what I didn't understand is when he said put in your wallet, he meant to connect it up here. It was terrible wording, but obviously I blame myself because I just wasn't educated. There was something called Loot, and there's a couple of other projects that you mint directly off contract, and I'd never seen it before. I'd only been minting off these websites, and that's why I like being in the game, because I get educated on this stuff. And now next time, I know there's going to be a lot of these coming up. I found one that's coming up that I bet you I'll make decent money on just because I know how to mint off contract now. You were supposed to put a number between, so there were 2,000 of them, and you were supposed to put a number between 1 and 2,000 of the token ID that you actually wanted to mint. And so if I had put a number in there in those 8 minutes, I would have got one. Jenna would have got one. Tristan would have got one. And all three of us just had no idea what to do. And I had a friend too. I should have called because it was 2 a.m., but he lives in the US who knows exactly what he's doing. And he's like, you definitely should have called me. I would have helped you out in a second. But we missed out. And I was actually surprised how expensive these were going for. They're now going for 9 ETH, 8.5 ETH, depending on the rarity of them, which is probably, what is that? 8 times 35. Yeah, but probably about 50 to 55,000 Australian now, which is, it's slightly frustrating because we were one number away from doing it. And it was just a lack of education. And if I had been following a little bit closer, I would have seen past projects that had done it and just being like, oh, of course, because 2,000 people knew how to do it. And that's what we were shocked at, because all three of us were so confused. And my brother's quite smart at this stuff too. And all these things are being minted and we're watching them being minted. I'm like, how do 2,000 people know how to do this? And we don't. And now we got the education the best way possible. We lost 150K between the three of us. But great opportunity. And I think going forward, if you guys are watching this, you guys know how to do it now. There's a lot of projects that are starting to do stuff like this. And now that we are in the educated bunch, we can mint them. And there's actually one last thing on that. There's a website that tells you the tokens that are left over in the contract. Instead of just guessing if one's not taken yet, there's actually a website you can put the contract in and it shows you all the tokens left.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask, is like, you put a number between 0 and 2,000, 1 and 2,000, but how do you know what number to put?
Yeah, yeah. It was a guessing game, and you basically like by the time we got there, there were 1,600 minted, so there was 400 left, and it took 8 minutes for them to get minted. But we could have just guessed until it got minted. And what happens is the gas fee is really cheap if you've got one that's available.
Gotcha.
But there is a website I actually don't know off the top of my head. But I can put in the notes or something. Basically, you put the contract in there, and it'll show you all the tokens that are left to mint on that. And people are actually doing that. Some things say that they're sold out, but there actually is a couple left. And they go to this website, they put that contract in, and they see if there's anything that was like overlooked in that minting.
Nice. That's exciting. So what's the next project?
Sorry, the website is flashnft.io. JLu has just informed me. Oh, there it is.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm interested. What's the next project, or is it?
So there is one. So you put the contract in there. The start ID is 1. They can see there's 4,000 left to mint on this one. So it could be one of these because he's only minted the first 2,000. But you can see the rest of them are all unclaimed. Almost all of them are unclaimed. That you'll be able to see in here. So you could do this one. The other one I saw was I just got to OpenSea. So they do these stealth NFT launches, and basically there's no website, there's no Twitter, there's no Discord, there's no anything. Oh, can you see my screen?
Not right now. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so let me pull back up that flashnft.io. Did you see this? No.
No, we didn't.
All right, so copy the contract in there. Start number 1. It goes to 6,000, so you know there's 6,000 left, and it shows you all the unclaimed ones. Now, anything above 2,000 is not available to claim yet until he opens them up. So that could be a second one that I do. Is one of these 3982 of them. The other one is ... and like I was saying, like stealth. They're called stealth launches. There's no Discord. There's no Twitter. There's no like team that you can see behind it. No website, but you mint straight off contract, and it comes from that original one that I was saying, Loot, where people learned how to actually do it from. Now, these have a very interesting concept. For every dollar that Ethereum is at, one more ... becomes available. So you can see there's 4,400 items because Ethereum had an all-time high of $4,400. And so next time Ethereum breaks all-time highs, you can come into the smart contract here and mint those next numbers as it breaks. So I've got mental alarm. Next time Ethereum breaks, get into the ... contract and start minting, because there should be a couple available. You can see they're not crazy, but they go for maybe 1,500 US, 1,400 US at $2,000, which is, and the other thing is you can mint 5 of them if no one else is in there taking them.
That is ridiculous.
It is. So yeah, those two are a couple, and then there's a couple of others I got my eye on coming up as well.
Solid. So with those Neo Tokyo identities, so they're opening up another, was it 3,982 of them?
Yes. Yeah, they are. And you just got to follow the clues to get there, which I might do. I put a lot of time into those other clues. Like the problem is that if you've ever done one of those, I think you have. I think we've probably done one together. Done an escape room and the clues aren't logical.
Yes.
And it's like you just get frustrated because I feel like it's like, well, if they were somewhat logical, it's like, oh, you had to divide it by 6. And it's like, oh, why did you have to divide it by 6? So like, oh, you just did. It's like, well, you should have like put number 6 on the wall and say like, you know that you have to divide it by 6 or something. And so it's like the clue hunt was very illogical, and it ended up just being a race that we lost. But yeah, I'll keep my ear to the ground and see if that's something we want to follow, just depending on how hard it is, really.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you've done all this hard work now. I feel like it would be almost like a pity to not get one of them.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. But the education, I think, has paid off really well. And even like now I'm creating our own project, and I'm trying to learn everything, because like even like developers in NFT land don't exist because it's such a new technology that everyone is self-taught and teaching each other. And then everyone who knows what they're doing has been recruited because everyone's doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million launches, and everyone needs a developer. So all these developers are so highly paid and they got lots of equity in it that you can't get a developer. So I'm just like, I guess I learn it myself. So I'm literally in there in the weeds, like trying to do Solidity coding for our NFT project that's coming up. And I quite like that because it's like it's going to take like a week of like digging into the weeds. And obviously I'm not coding it from scratch. I'm copy pasting other people's templates and just subbing like your own stuff in there. But I have to understand what's going on. And so I'm getting super educated on this space to the point where I'd like to be in like that 0.1%. And the 0.1%, they're just laughing. Like they're just sharing ideas and making ridiculous amounts of money.
Silly. That seems to be like, if you win this challenge, it's going to be because you become like this NFT developer and you've just pumped it in. Like, we just launched this NFT collection, made $2 million. How's the S&P 500 doing?
How's the S&P? Is he past 32K yet? It's true. There's not, and obviously it's like the .com era where there's a lot of crap going on and there's a lot of cash grabs. There's not a better vessel to ride in at the moment that I've seen. Otherwise, I feel like I'd try to be there than the NFT world in terms of multiples on investments. Like we're like, oh, 3x. It's like, oh yeah, it's like 300% on your money. It's just like, oh, it's not bad. I saw a 30x yesterday. It's like, it's a shame you went in that one. It's like that doesn't exist anywhere else. And even I was talking to one of Corey's friends who's launching a gym NFT, and he's like, it's such funny psychology because if you're selling a course, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to try and get people to buy my course. I got to like warm them up, tell them about it, tell them what they get out of it, and like hopefully they can buy with enough like positioning, right? He's like, yeah, the first 1,000 people who join our Discord, I'm allowing them to join the whitelist as a reward. And it's like, when you take that out of context, the whitelist means you can actually mint someone's token, and the mint is $300. And so it's like, literally his proposition in the NFT world is join my Discord and I'll let you buy my $400 Australian product. And people are racing into the Discord to get on this whitelist. And it's like, that psychology just doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's why I feel like there's no better vehicle than this right now.
That's unreal.
So
need a slight change in strategy soon, I think.
Yeah. Well, how are you going?
What's that?
How's it going on your side of the fence?
I think you're on mute. I can't hear anything.
We'll
just call it a day. We'll just
short snout, Bill.
I think someone's at the door, man. So not fantastic, I will say. Since last week, I think I've seen a little bit of a decline, a little bit of a decrease, but I'm hopeful, and I'm looking at, I guess, the NFT world at the moment, and still currently doing the flips of the what are they? Not baseball.
Candy Digital.
The Candy Digital football cards, which is fantastic, and that's really my first foray, I guess, into understanding more about this. I've got the My Curio cards, which I'm holding, and like we said, they've trickled down a little bit. But if you look at the graph, they've always shot up, gone down, shot up, gone down, shot up, gone down. And so it's for me waiting for the next time that we do see that raise in that floor price to most likely get rid of one.
Yep.
And I think my mistake looking back was getting it at the top, but you can't time the market, right? But I went very all into that. I didn't leave myself enough liquidity in order to educate myself, I think, in buying other NFTs and I guess diversifying a little bit. So if I was to have my time over again, I still would have bought those NFTs, not knowing what was going to happen thereafter, but I would have bought maybe just one or two and kept a little bit more cash so that I could play around with some different areas and investigate and sort of build more on that. So I think that's been my learning, and that's been a really good learning to take from it, is I didn't diversify enough early enough.
Yep.
And I didn't research or really understand enough going into those My Curio cards in order to not diversify. And I think Warren Buffett talks about that. He's like, only diversify if you don't fully understand something. And I didn't fully understand it and I didn't diversify. So it's either understand it and go all in, fantastic, or don't fully understand it, but diversify. So I think that's been my big learning from the NFTs so far. And that's going to be, I think, invaluable in the long term, because it's going to force me to either diversify when I'm doing these things or just go full, like 100% in, learn everything there is to know. The same way I was able to go very hard into Tyro, into Webjet, into Center Group, because I really understood that. And so I didn't feel like I needed to diversify. And that's what I don't have currently with NFTs. And that's what I'm very excited to be learning.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at them. That's my update for this week. Nothing too exciting there.
Yep.
but at the moment it's learning, and it's taking those lessons on board and looking at how I can implement them moving forwards.
I like that. And it's such a good space to learn too. Like I've been on this, I've been documenting it here, which has been great for like 10, I think since like week 6 is when like I switched over. So I've been going like 10 weeks pretty hard in this education. And dude, not only is it like so profitable, maybe not quite yet on my $30,000 challenge, but it's definitely, it's like the cutting edge of human technology, where like things are becoming costless in a sense because and my friend said that he put out a tweet, I thought it was really good, like Web 2.0 was like consumer centric, like sell something on your website, consume content, consume people's Instagram photos. Web 3.0, which is obviously the NFT craze and the actual blockchain, is ownership. So people are no longer like consuming this stuff, but they're actually owning the companies and the vehicles and the DAOs that are creating the next pieces of technology and the value for society. So it's like such a fun thing to be a part of, because you can see how the application of this technology is slowly diffusing through every single niche and continuing to get like better and better.
You know what would be cool, just on that ownership?
Yep.
At the moment, we are buying, selling, trading, everything on open, so much of it on OpenSea, right? If you could invest in OpenSea, OpenSea is the real, like, no matter what happens, OpenSea is the winner here. Every time something's being traded.
Ethereum.
True.
Which I guess is a layer under OpenSea.
Yeah.
Which is also deflationary. Like I'm putting some of, not financial advice, never will be, but I'm putting some of my mom's money into Ethereum now because I'm like, it's deflationary. It has utility. It has a market cap like 1/10 of Bitcoin, which is essentially becoming like the same as gold at the moment. It's essentially just sits there, but it still dictates the market. And I'm like,
Maybe
Ethereum.
explain what deflationary is. It's not a balloon, right? So just for people watching.
Deflationary. I don't know if I'm going to be able to nail this. Can you do it more concise?
No, mate. No, I can't.
All right. So I'll give you the terrible, not financial advice terms. Inflationary basically means the dollar, say the Australian dollar, gets less valuable every single year because there's more supply. They're printing more money. Ethereum is getting more valuable every single year because there's less supply. Every transaction you make on Ethereum, some Ethereum gets burned. So the supply is coming less and less, where if you're in the Australian dollar, it's becoming more and more. So if the demand's the other variable here, if that stays consistent, Ethereum's going to become more and more valuable over time, and the US dollar deflates. I don't know if that's the word. At 2.9% on average a year, where Ethereum is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's in the positive. So you're making 2.9% if Ethereum obviously has the same demand for it every single year, just by holding ETH over the US dollar.
I like it. And I think that's something I looked at as well when we're looking at selling these cards and doing those flips was each time I do that, I'm just leaving that money in Ethereum. Ethereum is going to go up and down, but over the long term, we expect it to continue to rise. Yeah. So a card you sell for 0.3 ETH now, which is what, like 1,500 Australian dollars, 0.3 ETH in 5 years' time might be worth $10,000. So if you leave that in ETH, then that's actually worth a whole lot more. So you might sell it, be like, oh, cool, I made $1,500 for that flip. That could be a $10,000 flip if you're leaving it in there and you're letting that grow over time as the price of Ethereum increases, which, like you said, we expect it to. Absolutely.
Yeah. And now, to get a little more technical, they're solving ETH's big problem. Not too technical. They're solving ETH's big problems of things like gas fees, transaction fees, if you don't know what gas fee is. They're literally solving that. Like Immutable X is a layer 2 on top of ETH that is no gas fees. ETH 2 is projected to come sometime, no gas fees. So it's like all these altcoins that have popped up to try and solve ETH's problems. ETH was the first mover, and they're the biggest in terms of utility. And it's like they're solving their own problems, and I don't see them going anywhere.
What happens? And this is something I actually don't know the answer to. What happens to ETH when ETH 2 comes? Does ETH become ETH 2, or is it a separate?
Yeah, I believe it becomes ETH 2.
Yeah.
But basically the smart contracts and the way things are transacted, I don't know the specifics in it, change. Similar. They went from like proof of, I don't know, we're getting too technical.
We're getting way too technical.
Basically, in order to process a transaction, it used to be computational power. Like you had to solve these advanced like sums and equations, but now it's proof of stake, which means you have to put a lot of your money up. And basically, if you get anything wrong, they take your money. So it's like the whole blockchain is fascinating because it's all about aligned incentives and like true economy that like runs seamlessly. It's like I put my $10,000 up and I earn $100 a day back on it because it's processing transactions. But if I start being fraudulent, they just take all the $10,000 and be like, okay, you're no longer allowed to process transactions. So it's like everyone is so set up with aligned incentives.
Yeah.
The last thing, Pete, I wanted to chat about really quick, passive income NFTs. Have you heard about those?
Is that like cyberkongs where you've got a Genesis?
Exactly like cyberkongs. Yes. There's a slight twist because cyberkongs was one of the first, and I'll put this in real simple terms as much as possible because I don't know it well enough to put it as simple as I'd like to. But for example, cyberkongs, there's 10,000 of these things. I'll share my screen just for a little visual. But these are fascinating. This is a fascinating time to me, and there's actually a little political politics going on around us. But let's go find, where are you, cyberkongs? Here we are. Oh, dude, did they get taken down? This is the politics that I may have.
Cyberkongs, there they are.
That's the second edition of them. Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. Okay, they have not got taken down.
That would have been big.
That would have been crazy. I'm just, where is it? Why is it not? All right, number 5, cyberkongs. These things are expensive as hell. For the baby kongs, they're 11 ETH. For the actual real, nope, nothing to see in there. Anybody?
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. I want to see how the sausage is made. You can see these ones are the Genesis kongs, so they're actually the adults, not the baby kongs. You can see they have offers for 100 ETH in there, which is $350,000 at the moment. Why? Because these things generate passive income. They do it in 2 different ways. The first way they do it is they get market royalties on NFTs. You can put in artist royalties or secondary market royalties, which is basically you take a percentage in the smart contract of, if I sell my cyberkong to Pete for $100,000, you can put in the contract that cyberkong get 5% of that. So they get $5,000. Now what cyberkongs have done is they put in the contract, I don't know the percentages, that $5,000 then gets spread between everyone who holds a Genesis Kong. So they're generating income based on the volume traded. And you can see it's a lot of volume being traded. If you own
2,000
yeah, if you own 10% of, if 10% of that's factored in, that's 2,600 ETH, which is a ridiculous amount. Now there's a second way that these things earn passive income, and it's actually the way that's happened is frowned upon by OpenSea, and a couple of projects have actually been taken off OpenSea, which is why I was worried this is going to get taken off OpenSea because of what they're doing. And essentially, they're creating their own coin, crypto coin. And what happens is if you hold a Genesis Cyberkong, and I don't know the specific details here, if you own this guy, you get, say, 50 of the coins a day. And the coin is a banana token for Cyberkongs. So it's $2.37 currently, I believe. This might be the wrong one. I'm not sure exactly. Could be that one. I'm actually not sure. Don't quote me on any of these.
But principle.
On principle, you get these coins handed to you every single day for holding a Genesis Cyberkong. And essentially the Genesis Cyberkongs, they got up to a point that, if this was the token, the valuation of the token got up to a point where each Cyberkong was earning $300,000 a year. in passive income. And that's why obviously I think that was at the peak price. They're probably only about $120,000, $130,000 now. And that's why they're $300K to buy, because you hold it. And at the banana's current rate, you're getting handed $150,000 US of income a year. How does it work? I don't 100% understand it. What I do understand is it's essentially an agreed upon token where people lock in, they stake the coins and they lock it in so that everyone knows that there's going to be a certain amount of coins locked in so that the price can maintain a certain rate. And then everyone just agrees not to pull the rug. Just like, I guess, the US dollar, there's no difference. Like, why does the US dollar maintain its value? Because we all agree that if I give you 10 US dollars, it's worth a certain amount. And that's what's happening here. And no one at the moment is selling or liquidating. And so it's steady at the moment, but obviously there's no guarantee of that. But a fascinating next step utility of people are like just basically creating banks out of these NFTs now. And a couple of NFTs have been taken down from OpenSea because OpenSea is scared that the US government are going to treat them like a security or like an actual bank being opened on their website.
Oh, geez. All right. Nice. This is getting interesting now.
Yeah. Gosh. Dude, crazy.
Wow. 10 weeks ago, I was like, you can buy a picture of an apple and it's worth like $10,000.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Now I'm like, now they're opening a bank.
Now they're opening the picture. JPEGs and memes are becoming banks and like credit companies that we're all agreeing upon random values.
Well, I mean, that's all money is. It's an agreed upon value. If I give you $100 note, you'll give me a lap dance, like whatever it may be. We have an agreed upon value of that.
$20. I'll give you 5 lap dances.
I'm interested in how people agree not to sell and not to rug pull within that.
So there's a lot of NFTs starting to do it. And we're looking at the functionality on our NFT and the legality behind it as well, but giving it some utility. But for someone like the Cyberkongs, they have a very high profile set of holders. And so they're almost trying to become the industry standard. And I think none of them need to cash out and like rug pull on it. So everyone's sort of like, as a community, if we can lock this value in, we can make a lot more money in the long term because we all hold a vested interest than we can in the short term. And they have the right target audience in there that are like, yeah, sure, let's just keep locking this value back up and reinvesting.
That's cool. So join Cyberkong?
Cyberkongs. I mean, it's a good bet. It's a good bet.
Yeah, it seems.
Unless OpenSea delist them. But even if OpenSea delist them, Cyberkongs might be big enough to not need OpenSea. The rest of the projects, there's one called Turtles DAO or DAO Turtles or something. They got taken down, and obviously their price absolutely plummeted because you can't trade through OpenSea. But Cyberkongs and Anonymous, or some of those top ones, might be the only ones who could survive OpenSea delisting at the moment.
And like long term, I imagine they'll all like, that's the thing, like OpenSea will become just another platform that it's traded on.
Yeah. And yeah, we're such in a nascent phase. It's like there's going to be all sorts of things open up. Even like how do you know when an NFT project is launching? There's one tool, rarity.tools, and there's another one that like some people know about. It's like there's no like aggregators, there's no like blog posts, there's no ads, there's no like, there's a couple of Facebook groups, a couple of Discord groups, but there's so much like opportunity needed available in this market for people just to like come in and land grab.
Yeah. All right. Well, that can be us. We'll think about how to do that.
Here we go. NFA's community. You're on at the right time before we open NFA Bank.
Well, the NFT 30,000 to $1 million challenge is still well on its way. The challenge just changed its name from NFA to NFT.
That's so good. That's so good. Real quick on this one, we can do it as a team. I lost $2,600. The one thing I will show is I did get into Phantom. I don't need to get into justification now, but a very healthy return in a week and a half. I think I've been in it 10 days. $1,000 this is actually Australian dollars, so I have to come and change that because this is not actually accurate.
69%, though. That's A healthy week.
A very healthy week. But yeah, ridiculously high, and it was up to 1850 or something crazy earlier this week. I won't get into why I got into that one, but and I won't get into why I put so little into it. But I'm at 58,900. How are you going over there, Dr. Flynn?
$34,471.63. And the losses there again came through my curio cards.
It's so funny. Our shape is exactly the same just because we're both riding the curio.
Well, it's interesting. If you actually look at where our shape's the same is from the peak of yours. That's when I bought into the curio cards. So prior to that, it wasn't the same. But I literally picked the worst possible week to buy the curio cards.
Yeah. Well, watch out, man, because this is starting to jump off the floor now here too. The S&P is at 30,297.
Yeah, wow, look at those. They're what's that? 1%? 0.99%.
We laugh.
Catch us if you can. Well, that's about it from me for this week. Nothing too exciting here. Really sitting in, I guess, hoping that we get a little bit of a bump on the My Curio card so I can liquidate some of that. And
can we lock in a wealth spell if we're not bumped by next week?
Look, if we're not bumped by next week, we do a wealth spell. How about that? We'll do a wealth spell live.
Oh, done.
We'll
Absolutely
do it live.
done. That's all we need. Awesome, man.
Amazing. All right. Well, I reckon
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That's about
it. We'll probably be changing to live. So if you're following along, make sure you subscribe so you can join us live and ask us some questions.
Amazing.
See you guys.
Catch you later, guys.